Economists and world leaders are
We're live.
escalation of Trump's trade war will have
We are live.
with consumers everywhere facing higher
Instagram live,
prices,
YouTube live.
of the U.S. and global recession. On Wednesday, Trump used national emergency powers to impose tariffs on at least 10% on most countries, with even higher rates in dozens of countries which he called the worst offenders. The reciprocal tariffs are aimed at some of America's top trading partners, including a 34% levy on imports from China, 20% from the EU. The universal 10% rate will take effect Saturday, with customized higher rates starting a week from now. 25% tariff on all cars imported into the US has just taken effect as well. President Trump claims his strategy will bring jobs and factories roaring back into the United States.
This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence.
But there are clear signs of unease. 4 Senate Republicans joined with Democrats to deliver a rare bipartisan rebuke of the president's trade policy, adopting a resolution 5148 aimed at blocking the administration's proposed tariff on Canadian imports.
The president is set to have a 25% tax on goods coming from Canada and Mexico. This is a tax, plain and simple, on the American people.
Wall Street is about to judge the impact of these tariffs, bracing for a steep decline Thursday. They're of US futures right now, red across the board. Also, let's check in with markets across Asia. They are down as well. The UK is down by more than 3%. Hong Kong down by 1.5%. The Shanghai down by 0.5%. Down by just over 1%. CNN's Jeff Zeleny has the very latest now reporting in.
Moments after the closing bell on Wall Street Wednesday, President Trump declaring a national emergency in the Rose Garden, finally announcing his reciprocal tariffs that he talked about throughout his presidential campaign and most every day since he has arrived here at the White House. The president laying out a sweeping set of tariffs that is going to potentially reorder the global economic scene, as well as the trading agreements with allies and adversaries alike. But the president said the United States has been taken advantage of. It's time for that to end.
In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that. We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades.
The president's correct. It has been decades since something like this has happened. Think back to before the Second World War. That is what is worrying some economists. They said this new protectionism that the Trump administration is ushering in will simply cause prices to rise for American consumers. So the next shoe to fall here, if you will, is the potential for retaliatory tariffs across the board in the ag sector, the lumber sector, pharmaceuticals, and so much more. Now, when you look at these country by country, line by line by line, there's a baseline 10% that the Trump administration imposed of a tariffs, but then added on for several other countries that the president deemed bad actors. China, for example, 54% on tariffs. Of course, think how many imports come into the United States. And a tariff, of course, is a tax on a good. So American consumers already bracing in this jittery economy. The question now, this certainly is a big gamble for the president. Is it one that will pay off? Jeff Zeleny, CNN, the White House.
This friendship is my love story. You'll both move in with me. We never see each other. We FaceTime every night. I use a filter. It's barely even me.
What's going on? Do you think we're going to gloss over the fact that you're the color of an old circus peanut?
Okay, you drive me crazy. But we're best friends. Yes, it's sexless and annoying. But what long-lasting love story is it?
So it's
This
very
friendship
funny
is
because
my
I
love
have
story.
everything I
You'll
know.
both move in with me.
So
We never
now
see each other.
implemented
We
drone
FaceTime every night.
technology.
I use a filter. It's barely even me.
What's going
So
on?
it
Do you
allows
think we're
us
going to
to
gloss
do
over the
things
fact that you're the color of an old
Your
circus
safety is
peanut?
most important.
Okay,
If
you
you feel
drive me
unsafe,
crazy.
that's
But
not
we're
a
best
It
friends.
doesn't
Yes,
feel
it's
like
sexless
that
and
in our
annoying.
heart.
But
And
what
worry.
long-lasting love story is it?
Internationally, more and more schools are turning to total cell phone bans in order to keep their students from scrolling in class. CNN's Pamela Brown visited one high school in Virginia to see what this looks like in action and to hear what the teens have to say.
Raise your hand if you're a fan of this new phone-free policy at school. It's complicated. This Virginia high school looks like any other during passing periods. But notice one thing's missing.
I remember the first day I was sitting in physics, my phone was locked up in my bag and I kept reaching for it, but I couldn't. And the only thing I could do was sit on my computer and listen.
Wakefield High is a guinea pig of sorts. Students are expected to store their phones in this magnetic locking pouch throughout the day. At first, there was resistance.
People were putting dents and holes in the wall. And their tables we had to get fixed.
Right after we got them,
Like they sounded like gunshots.
Greg Cabana, a government teacher at Wakefield, noticed it too.
the fact that they're banging pouches around the cafeteria trying to unlock their phone, this is proving our point right here of how meaningful and how powerful that phone is.
It may be too soon to fully understand the impact of phones on academic performance, especially talking to this group of high-performing students.
It depends on who you look for the phone calls.
But other benefits inside the classroom are clear.
Even just picking it up for a small time can take away from like your learning experience.
The 2023 Surgeon General's report says up to 95% of kids 13 to 17 use social media. Former Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy even called for tobacco-style warning labels on social media platforms, saying they're associated with significant mental health harms for adolescents.
The data also shows when kids are spending more than 3 hours on average, that they face nearly double the risk. Increased risk of depression and anxiety symptoms.
But a recent CDC study found about 50% of teenagers between ages 12 and 17 had 4 or more hours of daily screen time.
Every day. I go straight to my phone when I get home. Don't even think about the homework.
But when he's in the walls of Wakefield, he's opening up in other ways.
It's definitely with like social issues for sure. Like without the phone. Because like I feel like I connect with more people and like have better conversations than I could have had with the phone.
Student Karen Mai says it's led to a new kind of engagement.
Even just like at lunch, you like talk to each other, you know, like people bring games to class.
You never experienced that kind of engagement.
Well, it was just like, I mean, maybe not since kindergarten, maybe not since preschool.
And the students and teachers here say less isolation has meant less interpersonal conflict.
There were a lot less fights. I haven't seen any this year.
The movement to restrict cell phones in classrooms is growing, with 9 states having already passed a ban or restricted cell phone use in schools. And 15 states, plus the District of Columbia, have introduced legislation to do the same. But not every educator is on board, including Brandon Cardette Hernandez, a former public school principal in New York.
We have to teach digital literacy skills, like kids need to know how to use social media, and by an outright ban of smartphones in schools, we are not getting any closer to teaching those skills. Kids who are already the most vulnerable and the most under-resourced schools, who are already experiencing skill gaps, those are the kids who are going to be the most harmed.
There's also a very real concern about what happens during an emergency.
I know one of the biggest things that people were worried about was if there's like a lockdown and like there's someone in the school and you need to text your parents, and then all the parents would be going crazy because they can't text their kids, they don't know if they're okay.
Cabana points out that he thinks phones can do more harm than good in those situations.
Misinformation could be put out on phones, incorrect rumors, perhaps panicking when there shouldn't be. That would just be a hindrance to keeping students safe.
Well, Jake, we're parents. We know how kids can be crafty. So I asked about the pouch and some of the workarounds that students have found. And yes, they do admit that sometimes maybe they'll put a burner phone in or not put their phone in at all. But the bottom line is cell phones are not part of the culture at this high school like it was before. And when it comes to laptops and iPads, the students say that they don't use those the same way they do with their phones, that those are mainly for educational purposes, not for scrolling through social media. Jake?
All right, ban them all. That's what I say. Ban them all. Pamela Brown, thanks so much.
So, Richard, I mean, these were at the upper end of what countries, markets, etc., were fearing. By the way, the markets don't seem to like this based on the futures.
No, the futures are down quite sharply, and for good reason, because they don't like what they're seeing. I think what's, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh, in a sense. You had the 10% minimum across the board tariff. That was lower than expected. There had been the thought it might be 20% or 25%. So you end up with a base tariff of 10%. But then when you go to the individual country reciprocal tariffs, they are higher. With, for example, as you said, China at 40, EU at 20, Japan at 24%, and some higher than that. And I think what's going to happen here is how you get that number down through the sort of the trade negotiations, which will be very difficult, because you're not just talking about removing a tariff number. By and large, to be frank, tariffs are relatively low, 8, 6, 5, 9%. It's the non-tariff barriers, the currency manipulation, the local content restrictions, the import duties, in a sense. That, Jim, is what's going to push these numbers up and make it very difficult to get rid of them. So the US is well and truly set out its stall. The EU is having a press conference in 5 hours. Ursula von der Leyen is doing that. She's in Samarkand. And Australia is already described this as being totally unacceptable and not the way you treat friends.
Will consumers see these costs immediately?
Within very short order. There are things on boats. Remember, one of the great revolutions of the last 15 years has been in-time supply, just-in-time deliveries. So things on cars, on trucks and boats now will be in shops in weeks. So yes, as of tonight, that starts getting paid. One interesting point, Jim, which I think you might note as well, when the president did this today, there was no animus about it. There was no, I hate them, they're evil, this is bad. He actually said, look, Japan, great friend, love the country. UK, magnificent. EU, brilliant. But they've been robbing us, what were the words I wrote? Robbed, raped, pillaged, and scammed is the way he described it. And that's why he's doing it. But he wasn't vicious about it. It wasn't like this was sort of, I'm going to take it out on you. This was, no, it's business, and that's what we've got to do.
Well, Amazon is now joining the long list of potential investors in TikTok. That is according to a U.S. administration official. TikTok, of course, facing a looming deadline to find a non-Chinese owner. Now, just days before Saturday's cutoff, it's been receiving some last-minute offers. Amazon is far from the only company interested in the social media platform. Blackstone and a U.S. venture capital firm are among those offering to buy out TikTok's Chinese investors. Frank McCourt is a billionaire owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers baseball team. He's also put in his own bid to buy TikTok, and he joins me now. Frank, thanks so much for joining.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
We'll set aside the Dodgers for now, given that I'm a Mets fan, so we'll talk about TikTok. Tell us where your bid stands for TikTok here. Who has the upper hand at this point?
Yeah, I think we're coming down to the home stretch. You know, April 5th is right around the corner, and something has to happen between now and then. And I think we're getting to the nitty gritty now of the details of the deal and what it takes actually to have an offer for you that complies with the legislation that was passed with the bipartisan support. So I think we're getting into those details now. And, you know, for instance, the algorithm. Is the algorithm is China going to continue to have access to it or not? If it continues to have access to it, then it doesn't meet the spirit of the letter of the legislation. And China, I think, is a bit reluctant to give up that algorithm.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair question, because folks in the intel world have been telling me for years that TikTok is a security risk here. I mean, should folks on the inside of this and on the outside of this be confident that any deal, any parameters of the deal can actually remove a potential Chinese backdoor?
Well, if you completely disentangle from the Chinese technology, then people can be assured, Americans can be assured that they're safe. Let's review where we were, how we got here. The U.S. Congress became quite alarmed when they saw the data, and they realized that TikTok does not just have access to 170 million Americans' data; they have the ability to manipulate what 170 million Americans think, and that's dangerous. That's a national security threat. This is a propaganda tool, and so they passed legislation to make sure that TikTok was either shut down or sold. And a sale would require complete 100% disentanglement from the Chinese technology. The reason why we made a bid for TikTok, Project Liberty made a bid, is that we've been building a clean, American-made, from the bottom up tech stack, which does not rely on the Chinese technology. That's why we stepped into this. And we believe we're still the only bidder, perhaps, that actually can completely disentangle from the Chinese technology.
Did you take our son along for a demon fight yesterday?
I'm just trying to do something nice here.
Actress and musician Jennifer Nettles acts and sings with Kevin Bacon in the supernatural horror series The Bondsman. Nettles says she was blown away by the script.
As a musician, the way that I read things is the way that I write things. It's like I don't read them with my eyes, I read them with my ears. So how does this sound? Can I hear this? Does this sound authentic? Can I hear this in someone's mouth? And they jumped off the page as real to me, those words. So I loved the storyline.
The Bondsman debuts today on Prime Video, and Bacon and Nettles' album Hell and Back is out Friday.
And which genius will explain to me why I'm there?
Keep cat in the bag until I release it. Yeah, great. We're looking for the Fountain of Youth.
Oh, please, no.
What did I just say about the cat in the bag? The cat wasn't happy in the bag.
Here's your first look at Fountain of Youth, directed by Guy Ritchie. John Krasinski and Natalie Portman play estranged siblings who reunite for a global epic adventure in search of the mythical fountain. The action-adventure debuts May 23rd on Apple TV+. Getting my passport in Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Your journey won't be easy. Throughout these vast lands, you'll face thieves, beasts, and worse, all wanting your head. But you must go, because winter is coming. Game of Thrones King's Round. Pre-register now.
Upgrade your aesthetic with our stylish kitchen seating. Rich and supple Italian leathers pair with performance textiles for years of worry-free use. Fully assembled, right to your door. Modern heirloom quality furniture. Crafted for anywhere with you. Visit us at denvermodern.com.
Your journey won't be easy. Throughout these vast lands, you'll face thieves, beasts, and worse, all wanting your head. But you must go, because winter is coming. Game of Thrones King's Round. Pre-register now.
President Trump's view of Elon Musk is right now? Does he see more upside or downside in this relationship in this moment?
He definitely, Caitlin, still sees more upside. One of the things that I think is really important to remember about Trump and Elon Musk is, among other things, Musk controls X. That is a website that, he has been able to use to promote certain people, to attack certain people, people who Trump likes, people who the MAGA ecosystem like, or attacking those they don't like, number one. Number two, Musk spent roughly $300 million that we know about in the election in 2024, helping to push Donald Trump. He has already said he is privately to people in Trump's world that he is going to spend $100 million through entities directly controlled by Trump's advisors or his allies. That's a shift for him. So Elon Musk is never going to be out of Donald Trump's circle. But is Donald Trump aware that there is, there are downsides to Elon Musk? Yes. Is he aware that members of his cabinet and members of his staff don't like Elon Musk? Yes. I don't think you will ever see Elon Musk completely out of Donald Trump's orbit, but I do think you will see him leave, barring something changing, at the end of his stint as a special government employee. Trump is certainly aware that this has been a turbulent period. I don't think that he wants to spend the entirety of the next year and a half leading into what is likely to be a challenging midterm cycle, debating questions about Elon Musk's approach to shrinking the government, which has been commonly described as with a chainsaw, as opposed to Trump's word with a scalpel. And Trump would, I think, like something more precise, but he does see advantages in having Musk around. I don't think that he's eager to shove him out. I do think there are a number of Trump advisors who are tired of Musk's presence, and I think that is going to continue as long as Musk is there.
A federal judge has dismissed the corruption case against New York City's mayor. The judge also ruled that those charges against Eric Adams cannot be refiled. The U.S. Justice Department, however, had requested that the case remain open. The judge ruled that keeping it open could be used as political leverage. Adams, who was up for re-election this fall, was indicted last year on bribery and fraud charges. He has denied any wrongdoing. His attorney says the case should never have been brought. Stevens Carrascanel is covering all of this, has been covering this case from the beginning. So it's an interesting what we heard from the judge there. Is this a bit of a blow for the Trump Justice Department?
I mean, it's a strongly worded 78-page opinion where the judge says essentially that his hands are tied. There's really little power that he has other than to give the Justice Department what they're asking for here in part. So he's saying that he will dismiss the case. He can't force them to prosecute any defendant, but he's not going along with what the Justice Department wanted, which was to use this as potential leverage going forward. And the judge there rejecting the Trump administration's reasoning for this. They had said that the case against Adams should not continue because not based on the evidence, but because they said that earlier prosecutors under the Biden administration were politically motivated in bringing this case, and that this indictment and potential criminal trial was hanging over Adams, making it difficult for him to carry out Trump's immigration agenda. And the judge now, in his order, saying that there was no evidence of political motivation. And as to that potential carrying out of the immigration agenda, the judge actually wrote that everything here smacks of a bargain, dismissal of the indictment in exchange for immigration policy considerations. So the judge saying that he really had little that he could do other than to dismiss the charges, but meaning they can never be brought again. And he said one other thing he could do was providing transparency to the public so that members of the public could understand the Trump administration's rationale for why they wanted to get rid of this case, and that they could then potentially use it in the future when they're making democratic decisions, a potential nod to how they could vote. Erica?
Yeah, it is really fascinating, Kara. Thank you.
Jokes, pranks, laughter. They all come with surprising health benefits if done right.
To me, the benefits of laughter and comedy are a longer life and more of a connection with strangers. That's what second of laughter or a chuckle, that could be enough to calm someone and calm yourself.
It's true. One analysis finds when you laugh, it's associated with about a 32% drop in stress hormone levels.
If we think about how stress weakens our immune system, weakens our cardiovascular system, and it kind of increases the vulnerability we have to poor physical health, laughter actually can contradict that.
But we tend to lose this propensity to laugh as we age. Research shows that children laugh about 400 times a day, while adults on average laugh only about 15 times a day.
Part of the reason why kids laugh more than adults is because kids don't have no bills. I mean, laughing 800 times a day too.
So as adults, what can we do to add more joy to the day? Go to a comedy club. Try following your favorite comedian on social media. Take time to watch a funny show. Save funny jokes or memes in your phone to turn to when you're feeling down, or even have a laugh with friends.
Start adding those things into your regular routine, the same as exercise, the same as coffee.
But be warned, things can backfire if you take certain jokes or pranks too far.
If I have to ask myself, is this maybe too much? The answer is yes. Because if we're questioning it, then stop and back off.
Just like anything else for our health, there is a delicate balance.
But if you can sit for a second and laugh, that's a moment of escape for you.
Paul Walter Hauser stars in The Luckiest Man in America.
I love the show. I've probably seen it most. I like the guy. Stories like those are why America loves him.
At the outset, I was like, oh, this kind of feels like a quirkier version of quiz show, and it's and where I find the quiz show very easy to believe, this feels kind of hard to believe. I couldn't believe it actually happened.
What happened was Michael Larson kept winning and winning.
Director and co-writer Samira Rivera says the film explores four questions. What is doing it? How is it
Director and co-writer Samira Rivera says the film explores four questions.
One
What
day
is he
with
doing?
everything compared.
How is he doing that? Who really is this guy and why?
Let's find out who this guy is.
It's like the synthesis of the American dream. One day where everything can change.
I said again, it'll never be enough for him. He's a never enough for him. You couldn't give him any amount of money that would
In
matter
Hollywood, I'm
because
David
he's
Daniel.
chasing a thrill.
He just made more than
History.
It's just a good excuse to do nothing. Hoping that an opportunity comes along.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
I started one to spend them with my family.
Your journey won't be easy. Throughout these vast lands,
For us,
you'll face thieves,
If you're ready to build a
beasts,
business and life,
and worse,
Java will help
all
you
one
get
in
there.
your head. But you must go.
and mine
Because
also
winter
the colitis symptoms
is coming.
kept me out of the picture.
Game of Thrones Kings Round. Pre-register now. Your journey won't be easy. Throughout these vast lands, you'll face thieves, beasts, and worse, all one in your head.
And help mitigate
But you
damage of the intestinal lining
must go.
12 weeks and 1 year. Don't
Because winter
serious
is coming.
increased infection or
Game of Thrones Kings Round. Pre-register now.
Trump sending the first senior Russian envoy all the way to Washington for Russia invaded Ukraine. So it's a big deal. It's not just the first time since the negotiation, it's the first time since the war. And this envoy is
Trolling
exactly
Trump, sending the first senior Russian envoy
all
all the way to Washington because Russia invaded Ukraine. So it's a big deal. It's not just the first time in these negotiations, first time since the war. And this envoy is exactly like Trump's envoy. Kirill Dmitriev is a close family confidant, not a public figure. He is a financial guy. He runs Russian state-owned investment funds. Yet it is Dmitriev who is in Washington now to meet Witkoff, who is also not a public figure, happens to be a close Trump ally, financial guy, real estate guy, whose son helps the Trump family with the crypto business. At this hour, the world is still waiting for a rebound from these two men who are very similar backgrounds. All of this pointed out by our next guest, Vladimir Karaburza, Russian opposition politician and one of Putin's fiercest critics, recently released a major prisoner swap after being sentenced to 25 years in prison for criticizing Russia's war in Ukraine and suffered in solitary confinement there. Vladimir, it is good to see you tonight. You say that the choice to send Dmitriev to the U.S. Is clearly trying to mirror Trump, right?
Good evening, Aaron.
Kirill
So
Dmitriev
wonderful to be on your
is not a
program.
diplomat
Well, I
per
think
se, although he's
fundamentally
been
Donald Trump
involved
and Vladimir Putin have a very similar psyche. They have a very similar worldview.
What is
There's
Putin
been
doing?
a lot of conversations.
Well, good evening, Aaron. It's always wonderful to be on your program. Well, I think fundamentally Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have a very similar psyche. They have a very similar worldview.
Behaving himself as a strong
There's been a lot of conversations in these past 2 months
of
how Donald J. Trump is trying to parrot and mirror Putin. Essentially behaving himself as a strongman as opposed to as a leader of a constitutional democracy. Well, in this case, we see something that's the opposite. It's Putin
Neither of
mirroring
them is a public
parity
figure,
what
neither of
Trump
them
has done,
neither of
and
them is a diplomat.
it's
Steve
fascinating
Witkoff
to
was somebody
see
who
how
was a real estate investor.
similar these
Done
two
business with the Trump
advocates
family
are,
for
as
many
you
years,
just pointed
many
out in the
decades.
introduction.
Steve Witkoff
Neither of them
is
is public
somebody
figure,
who's very close
neither of
to
them is a
his
diplomat.
family in a literal sense.
Steve Witkoff was
His
somebody who
wife
was
is the
a
best
real estate
representative of
investor,
Vladimir Putin's daughter.
done business with the Trump family for many years, for many decades. Steve Dmitriev is somebody who's very close to Putin's family in a literal sense. His wife is the best university friend of Vladimir Putin's daughter. For many years, he has headed this Russian sovereign wealth fund, which is a shadowy government agency that is very unpublic, even by the public standard of Putin's dictatorship in general. Billions and billions of dollars go to that entity. Just literally a couple of days ago, there was a major investigation published by the Anti-Corruption Foundation, which was an organization set up by the murdered opposition leader Alexei Navalny. And that investigation showed the extent of the corruption that this guy, Dmitry, was involved in. He and his wife have been shown to own more than $80 million worth of luxury real estate, including France, Switzerland, United Arab Emirates,
in the middle of Europe. People are dying every single day. Hundreds of thousands of people are being killed as a result of this aggression. And tens of thousands of people are being kept captive as a result of this aggression. But judging by the
people are dying every single day. Hundreds of thousands of people are being killed as a result of this aggression. And tens of thousands of people are being kept captive as a result of this aggression. But judging by the personalities of these two provocateurs, they're not going to talk about peace. They're not going to talk about, the future of Ukraine. They're going to talk about money. They're going to talk about profits. They're going to talk about rare earth minerals. And it is frankly shameful, and it is shocking. I don't know what other adjective could use to describe what's happening here.
And yet, when you with Steve Witkoff, as you say, right, he's a real estate guy. He's not a diplomat. He doesn't have any background in diplomacy at all. But he's already met with Putin to discuss a ceasefire, and something that Witkoff actually discussed afterwards with Tucker Carlson. I wanted to play what he said for you.
It's never it was enormously gracious of him to accept me. I don't regard Putin as a bad guy. And it's a complicated situation, that war, and all the ingredients that led up to it. It's never just one person, right?
Vladimir Lenin talked about
how does the Kremlin
people in the West, people like your Spacefinder and others, who
it's more than a century ago now. The founder of the
believe in all the propaganda
state, Vladimir Lenin, talked about useful bourgeois idiots, meaning those people in the West, people like your Spacefinder and others, and we're happy to sort of believe in all the propaganda that was coming out from the Kremlin. Well, you see, unfortunately, that this situation is carrying on. And how unfortunate Steve Witkoff gave
it's not some sort of an
Tucker Carlson. And
it's not
I
somebody
was
who
just
don't know
listening to what he was saying, and I wasn't sure what planet this man has been living on for the last 25 years, because that's how long Vladimir Putin's been in power. It's not some sort of an enigma, it's not a newcomer, it's not somebody who won't know anything about. This man has been in power for a quarter of a century. And Boris side in power, he's waged wars, he's left other countries, he has murdered his political opponents inside Russia, like Boris Nemtsov, the leader of the opposition, like Alexei Navalny and other leaders of the opposition. He's keeping thousands and thousands and thousands of political prisoners, people who disagree with him, are being jailed in Russia for no other reason is that they have used to have to differ from the views of Mr. Putin. And for the past 3 years, Vladimir Putin has been waging the largest war, the largest land conflict on European soil since the end of the Second World War. And then we see the angle of the President of the United States saying that he likes this person, that he's not a bad guy, that it's never about just one person. Often, or at least sometimes, it definitely is about one person. It was about Adolf Hitler. It was about Joseph Stalin. Now it is about Vladimir Putin. And I think it's completely unacceptable to see senior officials of the United States administration acting as propagandists for the Kremlin and whitewashing all the crime that Vladimir Putin has committed, both against our own people in Russia, against the people of Ukraine, and against the people of so many other countries.
Thank you so much, as always.
Thank you so much for having me.
The goals for my season changed. It immediately changed after the injury, after my crashing in Tillington in November, and it was like now we're shifting. We're gonna try to see if I can get physically in shape to even return this season, and if that's a possibility, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make that happen. So it worked long hours every day. It was just a step-by-step process of returning to the sport I love versus thinking about 100 victories or globe season titles, even world championships was not a secure thing. So returning period that was challenging, but it certainly wasn't the easy way to do it. Mentally it was challenging, physically it was felt nearly impossible at times, but it did give me a really good gauge, like a lot of data points for going into the prep season training, which we're starting now, and going into next season. So it gives me some really good information for what I need to be working on going into next year. And it's a big season next season is big, you know?
Yes, it's something big happening. You posted on Instagram recently. You said, maybe it's 24 hours.
I don't know, but everybody's telling me it's a big one.
Still looking like you're being an
We have some pictures here that you posted on Instagram recently. You said, waited 24 hours without putting on a race suit. You're smiling, looking relaxed, still looking like you're being an athlete at some point. Rolling on a foam roller there. But after a long season, how do you recharge? What do you look forward to after a long season?
I love that.
Honestly, spending time with family, taking naps, watching movies, just being like a little bit chill, that's the perfect place for me to be.
I love that. And was there one overindulgent cheat food or activity that you did after you could finally just relax and enjoy some me time?
Actually, I had the first drink that I've had in almost 2 years.
Wow, 2 years.
Because, well, last year I had the knee injury. This season I had the oblique injury. And I just through all the injuries and everything, I just haven't been drinking. And then I felt really good not drinking. But after the final race in Sun Valley, the 101, I didn't go crazy. I had 2 drinks. It was more than enough.
Listen, one of the coolest things you did all season, you used your platform to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to get access to the sport you love to kids who might not otherwise have. The Share Winter Foundation website is great. Donations can still be made. What was the biggest driving force behind you wanting to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it started to become a reality that I could get to 100 victories, as that came into light, I realized together with my team, it would be such an incredible opportunity to sort of almost be like a mirror and reflect the spotlight back onto the sport itself and to winter sports. It's not even just ski racing, it's the access to the mountains and the fresh air and the environment and the snow sports community. And that's been such a gift in my life. And to be able to share that with more people, I thought would be a beautiful way to take 100 and make it something that actually carries any meaning. And it takes me back to when I was younger, starting out, and even now, like when I returned from injury, my first day back on snow free skiing was just like, this is just, it's like liberating to be able to feel, just to be in the mountains and be in that environment. So it's been a beautiful journey.
We need more athletes like you, Michaela. All right, so when you come down here to Atlanta, we're going to get you an old fashioned. We're going to really get cranking up before we have a little thing called the Olympics next year. When's the big wedding day? We're the same thing.
I am starting to think it's maybe like a 2035 kind of thing. I feel like my planning skills are just they're good when they have to be. I'm not sure about my wedding planning, so we'll start the conversations maybe after this next season, but we can get the old fashioned first.
Your journey won't be easy. Throughout these vast lands, the first leaves, beasts, and worse, all one in your head. But you must go, because winter is coming. Game of Thrones Kings Road. Pre-register now. Your journey won't be easy. Throughout these vast lands, the fierce thieves, beasts, and worse, all want in your head. But you must go. Because winter is coming. Game of Thrones Kings Road. Pre-register now. Your journey won't be easy. Throughout these vast lands, you'll face thieves, beasts, and worse. All one in your head. But you must go.
You can quit. For free help, text
Because
now to
winter
63888.
is coming.
Raise your hand if you're a fan of this new phone free policy.
Game of Thrones Kings Round. Pre-register now.
Raise your hand if you're a fan of this new phone free policy at the school.
One thing's missing.
I remember the first day I was sitting and figuring my phone.
This Virginia high school looks like any other during passing periods. But notice one thing's missing.
I remember the first day I was sitting in physics, my phone was locked up in my bag and I kept reaching for it, but I couldn't. And the only thing I could do was sit on my computer and listen.
Wakefield High is a guinea pig of sorts. Students are expected to store their phones in this magnetic locking pouch throughout the day. At first, there was resistance.
People were putting dents and holes in the wall. Like, there are tables we had to get fixed.
Right after we got them, when I walked in the cafeteria, all you hear is like the
Dang,
bang.
like it sounded like gunshots.
Greg Cabana, a government teacher at Wakefield, noticed it too.
The fact that they're banging pouches around the cafeteria trying to unlock their phone, this is proving our point right here of how meaningful and how powerful that phone is.
Cabana's been advocating for stricter regulations on phones for years, after feeling like his role as an educator was secondary to being the phone police.
As a teacher, it was a daily judgment pause. Put your phone away. Put your phone away. Should I say something to the student? Should I keep my teaching? Should I talk to them in the hallway? Is it worth it?
It may be too soon to fully understand the impact of phones on academic performance, especially talking to this group of high-performing students.
It's not a small, it is a dramatic
But other benefits inside the classroom are clear.
Even just picking it up for a small time can take away from
2023 Surgeon General's report says up to 95% of kids 13 to 17 use social media. Former Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy even called for
The 2023 Surgeon General's report says up to 95% of kids 13 to 17 use social media. Former Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy even called for tobacco-style warning labels on social media platforms, saying they're associated with significant mental health harms for adolescents.
But a
It also
recent
shows that
CDC
kids
study
are
found
spending
about
more than
50% of
3 hours on
teenagers
average.
ages
That
12 and
they nearly
17
double
have
the risk
4 or more
of
hours
increased
of
risk
daily
of
screen time.
depression.
I definitely prefer having it,
But a recent CDC study found about 50% of teenagers between ages 12 and 17 had 4 or more hours of daily screen time.
I definitely prefer having it.
You were
But
avoiding that before, but now it's like in your face reality.
now I know.
Do you realize that it makes you realize you have an emotional attachment to it?
I think I knew that before, and I was kind
In
of
the walls of
avoiding it.
Wakefield,
You were avoiding that before, but now it's like in your face
But
reality.
now I know. Every day, I go search my phone when I get home. I'm thinking about the homework.
But when he's in the walls of
Keeping Care in
Wakefield,
Mind says
he's
it's led
opening
to
up
a new
in other
kind of
ways.
engagement.
I feel like
Even if it's
connect with more
lunch
people.
together,
and, like,
you know,
have
like
better
people playing games,
conversations,
class, and like something that I have never experienced. You've never
Student Care in
experienced that
Mind
kind of
says
engagement.
it's led to
Well,
a
it was
new
because,
kind
I mean,
of
maybe not
engagement.
since kindergarten, maybe
Even
not
just
since
like at
preschool,
lunch,
and the
like,
students
each
and
other, you
teachers
know,
here
people
say
bring
less
games to
isolation
class,
has
and that's
meant
something I have
less
never experienced.
interpersonal
You
conflict.
never experienced that
There
kind of
were a
engagement.
lot less
Well,
fights.
it was
I
just
haven't
like,
seen
I mean, maybe
this
not
year.
since kindergarten,
The
maybe not
movement
since
to
preschool.
restrict
And the students and teachers here say less isolation has meant less interpersonal
Who's
conflict.
editing a
There
red
were a lot
avatar?
less fights. I
Pretty
haven't
cool.
seen any this year.
The movement to restrict cell phones in classrooms is growing, with 9
So I hope I don't have to do this every time where
restricted cell phone
I gotta
uses
repost
at 15 states, plus the District of Columbia
because
have introduced
the
legislation
first
to do the same.
time,
But not every educator is on board, including Brandon
you know, there happened to be
Hernandez, a
some
former public school principal in New
technical
York.
difficulties.
Digital literacy skills like kids reaching
Like I don't know what happened with the Instagram live earlier, but I got off and
schools are not getting any closer to teaching those skills.
He also worries that low-income students are relying on the school for access to reliable Wi-Fi.
I had to redo the video, so
Kids were already the most vulnerable.
and I know it only seems like an hour, right? But you gotta think about it
Those are
too.
the kids who are gonna be the most
It's an hour, and then you want to make changes to it. That's another maybe a few hours, and then you want to watch it yourself after the hour, and then the few changes, right? So it ends up being 6 hours. one video and you're on two,
phones can do more
you're
harm
on
than
two
good.
streams, you know, you're on the Instagram live and the YouTube live. So
So while the jury still out, this group would recommend a ban in other schools, one thing is clear: unplugging for them means a new sense of freedom.
That's the part I really love most. Just like honestly, the weight that's kind of been lifted off my shoulders, this freedom taken from us, but we've like gained another freedom. I guess like a mental freedom. So I really
children at what Hamas has done. The same shouts as others gather around the body in prayer.
almost done here though.
The man they are mourning is today Rabi.
Look, children, at what Hamas has done. This man shouts as others gather around the body in prayer. The man they are mourning is Uday Rabi, 22-year-old Palestinian from Gaza City. Rabi's family says he was killed by Hamas militants, tortured to death for publicly criticizing Hamas. Rabi's brother Hassan told CNN his brother was abducted from the streets of Gaza City by a group of Hamas militants. 6 hours later, he was handed over, barely alive. Cuts and bruises marking his back, arms, feet, and face. Parts of his hair and one eyebrow shaved. Rabi's brother
14
says his
minutes
body
left,
was delivered with a
nothing.
message. This is the fate of everyone who disrespects Al-Qassam brigades and speaks ill of them, referring to the armed wing of Hamas. Rabi died hours later of his wounds.
As his body is carried to the street, the crowd erupts
Body is carried through the streets. The crowd erupts in chants calling for Hamas to get out. His family demands justice and retribution. Hamas's government media Rabi was killed early after to the streets in Gaza's largest anti-Hamas demonstration since the war began. Rabi had already scuffled with Hamas members a month earlier. His brother said he feared Hamas would kill him.
A week later, he's dead. Our money, of course, is
they want to take me. They want to. I don't know what.
Per capita in the country, a lot of really good
Sounds too good to be true.
Tariffs will be so good for Indiana. We already are the largest manufacturing state per capita in the country. A lot of really good paying manufacturing jobs in the top steel producing state. In my small hometown in Northeast Indiana, the best jobs are at a local steel mill called Steel Dynamics. My dad retired from a factory that made axles for cars, and those are the manufacturing jobs President Trump is bringing back from overseas to the United States of America. More made in America cars is good for India.
Don't worry, Ari, that the manufacturing jobs that come back might end up being automated.
Right now in Indiana, we have large General Motors plants, Toyota plants, Honda plants. By the way, Honda projected to make the next generation Honda Civic in Indiana instead of these tariffs.
Jobs they give. Just like the American dream. Those jobs back, that's what they're so a lot of kids have to work in America. Jobs back to the United States, especially in the state of
Right, but these cars that are going to be manufactured in the United States and in Indiana that have foreign parts, especially, for example, the Chevy Silverado manufactured in Fort Wayne, and those foreign parts are going to be tariffed 25%. Same goes for any other cars using foreign parts that are in the Subaru plants in Lafayette. That stands to reason that these cars are now going to be more expensive for Americans. Are you not worried at all about the auto industry being destabilized because of that?
As President Trump has said, there will be disruptions in this economy. Other countries are already find these reciprocal tariffs. We're not going to let you take away. That's what they declared. In the roads that that there will be more good paying union and non-union manufacturing.
I want to ask you the exchange you had yesterday in the halls of the Senate, an exchange with a former federal employee from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services who approached you. The exchange went viral. Here's a little bit of it.
Hi, I was in a room where DHS was fired illegally on February 14th. There are many people who are not getting social service programs, especially people with disabilities. Are you going to do anything to stop what's happening? I deserved it. I deserved it. Wow. Yeah, that's great to hear. Why did I deserve it?
I do have sympathy for the hardworking Hoosiers.
So in a statement to CNN asked about it, you said, quote, I have no sympathy for left-wing activists who have been let go from overpaid positions that should have never existed. I do have sympathy for the hardworking Hoosiers whose tax dollars have been wasted on bankrolling those positions, unquote. This former federal employee was on CNN a little bit earlier today. Listen to what he had to say.
That I deserve to get fired. In response to,
I was just asking, what are you doing about the service? As a federal employee, other civil servants, I am nonpartisan.
Do
you have any evidence that he's
I'm saying like,
activist?
I don't know, Thursday.
Here's what I know, Jake. He's an instigator.
Got about 5 minutes left, 8 minutes, 7 minutes left here. Now one, and we went twice today, so this is a little discouraging, but
it doesn't take a whole lot here to do some of that. He's a left-wing activist. And what I have no tolerance
whatever.
for is they are entitled to a taxpayer-funded job. In this case, we know that he made between somewhere $85,000 to $100,000 a year for a job that he can't even explain what he was doing. It was a job that wasted taxpayer dollars. I have no sympathy for that, but I do care about those factory workers, those teachers, the police officers in Indiana who work hard every day and pay taxes to fund a job like that that shouldn't belong in the federal government to begin with. So that was my point. I'm not going to shy away or back down or apologize for what I had to say yesterday. This was a calculated instigator, activist in the hallways of the Senate, and I don't have a lot of tolerance for it.
Do you feel that way about every federal employee that's been laid off in all these massive job cuts that Doge and President Trump have been doing?
Look, this guy was chasing me and other Republican senators through the hallways. Of course not. My comments were directed at this fellow, again, who can't even explain what his job was. It was a woke job that wasted taxpayer dollars, and I'm thankful that President Trump eliminated that job to save tax dollars. $37 trillion national debt. That's what we're getting at. Cut wasteful spending, save those tax dollars. Salary of someone like that.
I'm genuinely asking, how do you know what job he's on?
Can't explain it.
34 triple D.
It doesn't make
Still
sense.
not big enough.
He couldn't even explain it.
It's flat.
On your station exactly what he did, which is why he was a probationary. There was a job that we didn't need in the federal government.
All right, 4 minutes left.
Wine is one of the many embraces of the president's tariffs that we announced today for American winemakers. The U.S. has been fermenting for weeks as the between the U.S. and its allies goes on. Since the passage shows us how this is paralyzing small businesses and affecting what you pay per bottle.
It takes years from planting a vine to turning grapes into a muddy water. And those years of planting are being uprooted ultimately.
You understand they're trying to make the best decisions possible without guidance.
These are muddy waters. A fifth generation owner of Miller family wines. Miller says they cultivate mixed wines under different labels. From very high-end to more affordable wines. Miller says 10% of their wines are typically exported to Canada. Custom blends. In hunting season, Canada is typically America's biggest wine customer. $45 million. Largely stocking in California in retaliation for President Trump's tariffs on aluminum and steel. About 12,000 Miller family wine bottles sold $90,000 worth of their wine in a California warehouse.
I don't know what he's gonna at the
It
end.
has specific labeling requirements, but going nowhere. And what about slapping required American people to domestic? Even Trump's idea of imposing a two. There has to be a conversation. Highly regulated. And while there are future harvest, there's no clarity. Natasha,
The computer, right? I'm on stories and I'm reading stories. It's like this small, and I'm trying to figure out how much it would be on your phone. So, easy. Guess I'm blessed to be where I'm at right now. Good.
And I was done telling.
All right, here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it is, end of the live stream. Till next time, next video.